So we're here with John Allen. He's the CEO of Elite Meat, and we just want to talk a little bit about how you founded it and some of the leadership challenges of founding not only a startup, but just coming out of the gate with not having really any executive experience in that realm. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was in the SEAL teams for 7 years. Actually, in my first deployment, I got hurt on deployment, and it ultimately prompted this decision to get out of the military. But at the time, I had 4 years until my contract was up. But because of the injury and the severity, and talking to my wife, we were like, we're gonna ride this contract out, and then we're gonna get out. And so I was really prepping for my transition out 4 years out. A lot of guys don't take that much time to prepare for their transition, so I felt like hyper prepared. And I was like, I'm gonna go to business school because I had a degree. I'm gonna go to consulting, and that was my grand plan. It turns out, as life would have it, the Navy had other plans for me, where my contract kind of inadvertently was cut short, and I found out with a very short amount of time. I went from having what it came down to, I had like 2 years to go, and then all of a sudden they were like, just kidding, you have 8 weeks. And I hadn't even applied for business school yet, so like the big irony was like, I'm so prepared, but when like push came to shove and my contract's jacked up, I couldn't go to business school, and I hadn't even applied. So it was like 100% off the table, and everything I thought about with my transition was hedged on having an MBA. I hadn't even considered life without an MBA. It was only MBAs. And so I ended up connecting with a guy named Jordan Selleck, who you obviously know, co-founded Elite Meat with me, where initially I met with him on LinkedIn, and I was just this desperate veteran seeking help. I have 8 weeks to find a job, and I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, look, man, you gotta meet people in industry and talk to them and like build a network, in addition to refining your resume and figuring out what you want. But you gotta know people. Yeah. You know no one.
You have 8 weeks, go.
Right,
Yeah.
So I'm like, this seems practical. Yeah. And we ended up having this networking event, which at first was just me coming to New York, and I was just gonna meet some people. And then I was like, I invited you and a few others. Yep. And it became like, you know, special operators meeting industry in New York, and it was like this special event where, you know, I went in thinking it's gonna be about me getting a job, and then it became like this awesome feel where other people are getting offered jobs, and it just like had this community vibe that just made sense. And it seemed like, why isn't anybody else taking these elite caliber special operators and putting them in the room with employers and influencers? It just struck me as this really obvious, huge value. But at the time, I'm not thinking like that. It's very easy to retrospectively say what a great idea this was. I didn't get a job out of that first networking event, and my time in the military was about to end, and I had to like go back and be like, cool, we had this great event, but I'm getting out of the military tomorrow and I don't have a job.
Chick-fil-A, here I come.
Yeah, right, it was like, I got nothing. And luckily—
Not there's anything wrong with Chick-fil-A working there.
Luckily, so because of my injury, I had all this medical stuff that I kind of had like pushed aside because I wanted to get back into rotation, etc. And the people that were helping me medically out process, and I'm like so bitter, you know, as I'm like going through the rigmarole, I'm like, oh, I don't even give a care about health insurance. They were like, hey, there's a lot of issues here that seem unresolved. Why don't you go try to get these like put on a med board? Like, we can even help you get put on a med board. So the Navy ends up putting me on a medical retirement board, if you will, and I go from I'm getting out tomorrow with no job. That event we did was cool, but it didn't get me a job, and it probably won't be anything, to the Navy's paying my bills for the next 6 months, and I'm still in the Navy.
Was it literally you were getting out tomorrow? Was it literally?
It was actually literally a week. It was actually 7 days.
Yeah.
And I went to CBS, and I was like, hey, can I just take the application? It looks like it's nearest my house. And Elite Meat wasn't
Would
even—
we call that a low point
Yeah,
in your naval career?
My wife's like, that's fine, you get 2 jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and so—
You're planning to be a pharmacist? Not exactly.
And so I ended up, it was this amazing stroke of luck in some ways. And because honestly, like, even though this is on camera, I was so bitter at my command.
Oh, yeah.
The way it went, it was like, they screwed me, like, this sucks, that people were just like, all right, John, good luck. And so when I like got put on the med board, I'm back at the command, and like, let's just give John his space.
Yeah.
And so like,
he's
I
back.
pretty much didn't go to work for 6 months and just like built Elite Meat. And so by the time my medical board ended and I was medically retired, like Elite Meat went from this one random event to being an actual nonprofit that worked with money and everything. And so I like went from like I retire and then I'm like full-time at Elite Meat. And so to answer your question, like I had no clue that this would be what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2017, and now, you know, fast forward a couple of years, we've like professionalized, but it's still the same idea. Put really awesome veterans in the room with employers and see what happens. So
would you say, just to capture kind of one more essence of it, you said, I went looking for a job for me, and then I said, why aren't they putting other people, connecting these other special operations folks with employers. Would you say that there was a sort of an organic transition where you went from, like, I'm trying to fulfill my purpose to, holy shit, I found a new purpose, like actually trying to help other people who might be in the same boat? Was that sort of what's driven that?
It was. And I don't even say it in order to make sure that it looks really clean and wow, I'm so philanthropic. But the reality is it's so easy to get passionate about something when you're kind of advocating for a group, right?
Yeah.
Like, instead of it being, I need to raise money, for this business, and I'm not against capitalism. I think in some ways I am a capitalist, just trapped in a nonprofit world. But it's like, when I would go out and solicit money or people to come to these events, it was like, I would think about, like, I'm not actually asking money for me. I'm asking money for a group that I love and care about and understand. And so it was so easy to throw myself into the service side, especially when the Navy's like, we'll pay you for the next 6 months so you can focus on your thing. But yeah,
let some of the anger go.
Yeah, the anger went away. But no, honestly, like, the service side, I think it comes naturally. I think military guys too.
Sure.
I mean, you joined the military. You're giving away something. You're serving other people. I think that it's kind of something we're hardwired for. So for me, it was actually easier to like go nonprofit because it allowed me to just maintain that service-driven mindset.
That's awesome. EliteMeet.us. It's a fantastic organization. Check it out on social media.